Hey people, how are you doing today? I am Makeda Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist, and I'm live right now on my IG page. I will then save it and repost it to my YouTube, so be sure to follow me in both places. Quick intro for those of you who don't know me. I have a background in exercise and sports science and nutrition science, and I have a holistic approach to the body and health. I travel around a lot. Right now, I'm in Cuenca, Ecuador, and every country I go to, or city, okay, I like to do a quick video just about, food access and access to a healthy, active lifestyle. And that can vary in different parts of a country, right? So that's why sometimes I have to be mindful that just because I travel to one or two cities in a country doesn't mean it represents the whole country, right? There's variations. So this trip to Ecuador, I was in Guayaquil, which is on the Pacific coast, for about 3 days. And then now I'm in Cuenca, which is way up in the mountains. Like, I don't know if it's like 8,000 feet above sea level or something, right? And, I have to say that out of all the places that I've been, here in London, I feel like I've had the worst food, okay? In taste and also like quality. There's this, I've done several videos about, food systems in different countries. I did it when I went, in different cities. And I've done extensive videos about the food in the U.S. because the constant myth that is perpetrated, continuously perpetuated, is that, the food in the U.S. is so bad and that we have the worst food and you can't find good quality meat or good quality dairy in the U.S. And that's absolutely not true. I'm always showing that with what I'm posting on Instagram. So if you're on YouTube, you don't follow me on Instagram, be sure to follow me there as well. But I'm always showing that, like when I go to supermarkets in different cities in the U.S. and I'm showing the options, right? There are a lot of Americans who have moved to Ecuador, American expats in Ecuador and Mexico and Colombia and all these places, Costa Rica. None of those places to me have better food when it comes to quality, when it comes to variety and flavor as well, but also just in terms of the quality of the food. Like, for example, powdered milk is extremely toxic, right? And I've never seen any Americans use powdered milk, but when I've been in the Caribbean and Costa Rica, they love some powdered milk. Powdered milk, and I've heard that some African countries use it too. Powdered milk is absolute poison, okay? People, if you follow me, I talk about raw milk all the time, and I can get raw milk in a lot of states in the U.S. You sometimes have to go out of your way, but you can get it. Raw milk is kind of hard to get in a lot of the world, except for some European countries, and maybe if you're like living on a farm in South America or something. Like when I was in Costa Rica, I used to spend a lot of time there, and the one time I was able to get raw milk, I was actually staying on a farm where they actually had the milk there, but otherwise, you couldn't get that. People don't know that Costa Rica, like I remember years ago, they told me, Costa Ricans told me they did not have any pineapple that wasn't GMO, okay? So, powdered milk is what really is bad for your heart and destroys, causes health problems. And this is the reason why you don't ever want to drink low-fat or non-fat milk, okay? Low-fat and non-fat milk and other dairy like yogurt and stuff like that, they use powdered milk when they make that, right? So that's why even if you're buying store-bought milk, you want to buy whole milk. First of all, you need the fat to even absorb, to digest the protein and to absorb the naturally occurring vitamin A and D. You need that, right? But when they make when the commercial food industry makes low-fat or no-fat milk, they use powdered milk, which has oxidized cholesterol, and that is bad for you. Okay, if you're drinking whole milk from grass-fed milk, that's actually a superfood. But if you're consuming milk from the commercial food industry, especially low-fat and all that, no bueno, okay? And so I feel like, when I think about access, because when I travel, I'm never like, oh, I'm just on vacation. I'm just doing vacation stuff no, when I travel, I'm also working, right? I'm in school, I run businesses, so I'm always working too. So, there are times I'd like to order things. I don't always want to have to go out to go get food because cashew milk is garbage. I've done videos about that. Definitely check them out. Yeah, so sometimes I might want to order something because I may not want to go back out. It might be nighttime or when I first wake up in the morning, whatever. And, you know, I use Uber in the U.S., Uber Eats. You know, Uber Eats, they have Uber Eats here in Ecuador. They have it in Colombia. They have it in Mexico. And I find that the options, okay, that are on the Uber Eats here in Ecuador, it's all like junk food, like fast food crap. Whereas in the States, if you're in a city like Chicago, New York, any major city, you can get food from good quality restaurants, not just fast food, right? And this video is not so much about, so people also talk about how Americans don't eat a lot of vegetables, right? That's like the emphasis in the U.S. More vegetables, more vegetables. But every country I go to eats less vegetables than the U.S., okay? Definitely they don't eat a lot of vegetables in the Caribbean, okay? Let's really be real. I think Jamaicans, they love cabbage. That's like the one vegetable they eat. But it's like, you know, it's like a lot of these countries, this is starches, you know, it's meat and starch. They'll give you potatoes and rice. Like, I don't know any Americans that eat potatoes and rice. Like, I can't do two starches. We usually like, an American dinner is usually going to have some meat or fish or whatever, and a starch and a vegetable. Okay. And the vegetable to me is not even a necessity, but it just helps make it more balanced and just taste better. But definitely I haven't seen a vegetable at all since I've been in Ecuador. Okay. There's no vegetable on any menu. Okay. You can forget that. Not even on the sides. You know, like when it comes to the sides, you look at most American menus, you look at the sides, there's some vegetables there. Not here. Okay. I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm just letting you know. All right. Same thing with Colombia. So again, it's like, I just hate this myth about American food that we don't eat enough vegetables, when I feel like we eat more vegetables than most people, most countries. When I was in Paris, I went to eat at a nice restaurant. They gave me chicken and mashed potatoes. There was no vegetable, right? An American restaurant will always give you a vegetable, right? So that's one thing. Also, it's very, like here, it's very high up in the mountains, but you know, and it's kind of chilly. So to me, and it's cloudy a lot. So I thought to myself, people have to be vitamin D deficient here. They have to be. But people are vitamin D deficient in most of the world, okay? Even in countries where it's hot and sunny, because countries where it's hot and sunny, people wear a lot of clothes. I haven't been to one hot country yet where I didn't see people like overdressed with like long sleeve shirts and pants, okay? So you still will have vitamin D deficiency even though you're in the Caribbean or you're in Florida or you're in West Africa. So that's a worldwide problem. That's why it's so important to get it from our foods. And the foods here are very interesting. I can say that I'm not a fan, okay, of Ecuadorian food. The combinations of things that they eat is very strange to me. And no offense to anybody, but we all like what we like, right? I think that the food, you know, in Colombia is better. But it's just, I find that, like, there are a lot of Americans who are moving here. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't move to, there's no country I've been to that I want to move to. A lot of it for me has to do with the food. If I'm not in a place where I can get grass-fed butter, raw milk, good quality cream, good quality teas, because like, in Latin America, they don't drink tea. Even though, like, I'm sure they drink herbal tea when they get sick or something, but it's like, for myself, who I like to drink matcha, green tea in the morning, or a good chai, which I mix with my yerba mate. Yerba mate is a tea that comes from South America. I mix it with my chai. But whenever I've been in a Spanish-speaking country, you can't find good chai or good matcha. Everything is like extra sweet. People always say that Americans consume so much sugar and sweet stuff. No. Colombia, Mexico, and here in Ecuador, they consume way too much sweet stuff. Like, it's like overkill for me. I don't even like all that sweet stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all like a little sweet, but I don't like overkill. All kinds of syrups and this and that. And so they definitely eat a lot of sweet stuff here. But Spanish-speaking countries in general love sweets. However, I feel like, for me, I'm not a big pastries person and cakes and all that. I'm not really into that. But if I'm going to eat something like that, I'm going to get it in Paris, because I feel like Paris has the best pastries, even though I'm not a big pastry person. I definitely don't want it for breakfast. But I just feel like the food here, I haven't had a good meal since the best meal I had was in Guayaquil, which was encocado. It's a dish that comes from, well, I know about it from the Pacific coast of Colombia. There's a whole lot of black people in the Pacific coast of Colombia, and they make a dish called encocado, which is really good. It's like shrimp or fish in this sauce. It's like made from coconut milk and peppers and some spices. I don't know. It's really, really good. So when I was in Guayaquil, I found a restaurant that had that. That was the only good food I had in Guayaquil. Everything else I had, I remember tacos, none of it was good. And that's another thing here. They have Mexican restaurants, but the Mexican restaurants are using wheat tortillas instead of corn tortillas on their tacos. And I'm like, who does that? Like, first of all, I hate wheat tortillas. To me, if I'm going to eat tortilla, it has to be made from corn. But I've never seen a restaurant selling tacos that's made in wheat tortillas. So it's just like, and the Mexican food I had here was horrible, you know? Everything that I've eaten has just not tasted good. And, you know, there's this town that I was thinking about going to called Manta, Ecuador. It's on the coast. And I think it's a place where there's a lot of Afro-Ecuadorians. So I'm like, maybe I'll go there when I come back. I'm reading about it. One of the things that Manta is known for is this production of margarine. They produce a lot of margarine. And I know for me, a lot of times when I'm in these countries, when I'm in certain countries, I feel like if I'm in France, I believe that they actually use butter, right? But I remember being in Colombia and asking for butter. Mantequilla, okay? Mantequilla, no margina. Or however you say margin. Margina. Like, I know butter is mantequilla, all right? And I have to tell them, mantequilla, no margina. But a lot of times, it's like people don't even know the difference. Because the advertising, the food industry is tricky in every other country too. I keep telling people that commercial food industry crap is a worldwide problem. It's not just an American problem. And I noticed this, the first time I ever left the country was in 2006. And I went to Costa Rica. And I went to both the Pacific coast and the Caribbean coast with one of my best friends. I remember being like in the jungle somewhere, okay, on the Pacific coast. Not in the Pacific coast, sorry. I don't know where. I was just in the jungle somewhere in Costa Rica, right? And I remember there was like no stores around, nothing. And we had to, there was like this bathroom and like I went to use the bathroom. I remember the soap they had in the bathroom was antibacterial soap, which is really bad for your microbiome. I knew this since 1997, right? So I remember thinking like, even out here in the jungle where you feel like it's so remote, they still have this crap. And over the years when I spent time in Costa Rica, I would see that. Like a lot of people don't know, and this is criminal, but in Latin America, there are drugs, okay, that are outlawed in the U.S. Now, you know if a drug is outlawed in the U.S., it's bad. Because there are several drugs in the U.S. that have killed people. Okay, that's the third leading cause of death in the U.S. is pharmaceuticals. So there's tons of drugs in the U.S. that's legal that kill people every day. So you know if there's a drug that is illegal in the U.S., it's bad. But they will take these drugs that's illegal in the U.S. and dump them in Latin American countries. Probably other countries too, but I know for sure Latin American countries, right? And I remember hearing this woman that I was working with when I was teaching in Costa Rica years ago. She had lost an ovary because she was taking some type of birth control that was illegal in the U.S., okay? It's illegal in the U.S., but in Costa Rica, you could buy it over the counter. That's the kind of stuff that, happens. And the same thing happens with food, okay? I remember being in Haiti and Jamaica, and I felt like when I was in Haiti, I never saw so much soda in my life. Never saw so much Wonder Bread in my life, okay? Then I always heard that Haitians worship Spam. I didn't see that when I was there, but I've heard that from my Haitian friends. All that stuff is super processed. Now, whenever a country or a person is in a state of need where they have to ask for help because there's a major disaster or they don't have food, whatever, the food that you get given is always canned processed crap. Canned processed crap. So part of the reason why some poor countries have this food that's so processed, it's more complex than that. It has a lot to do with some international laws and the fact that sometimes, I remember learning this in my other graduate program, some countries, when the U.S. lends them money, they give the mandate that they can't sell certain things, or we're shipping our crap into the country that's super processed. But it's not all stuff that's being shipped in from the U.S. into these countries. These countries also are producing their own crap. Like I said, this town, Manta in Ecuador, is known for margarine production, right? And for me, I've heard a lot of people say that when they came to the U.S. or they moved to the U.S., they felt sick and they couldn't deal with the food. That's how I feel when I leave the U.S., right? My main reason for wanting to go to Europe a few years ago when I went for the first time was because I was like, is that the one place on earth where they have food standards? Because I feel like when I leave the U.S. and I've gone to the Caribbean or South America, Central, I always feel like I'm going backwards when it comes to food quality, right? There's tons of GMO here, and you don't have the option of. They also have a commercial meat industry. It's like in the U.S., you can go to the regular supermarket and buy crappy food from the food industry, or you can be like, you know what? I'm going to go to Whole Foods and get some grass-fed beef. You know? Like, there's more options. There's definitely more options. And I feel like a lot of these countries, there's not a lot of options. You know, like, they'll have, you know, like, just, it's the same processed crap, but it's like the realization that it's processed crap hasn't hit them. It's like they're behind, right? It's like a lot of Americans realize that now. Not all, of course. But there are a lot of people in the United States who are aware of that and are demanding better things, and the businesses follow, right? So when I try to look up the stats on Ecuador and how healthy people are, I can't find any stats, because I like to look at epidemiology as well. You know, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm just glad I'm leaving tonight because, you know, I haven't had good food since I've been here. And I definitely, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else I have to say. I feel like when I end this video, there's things I'm going to have to, that I'm going to remember that I meant to say. But one other thing about Ecuador, though, is that cannabis is legal here for personal consumption, right? So if you live here, you can grow cannabis plants and you can consume it, smoke it in the privacy of your own space. I think it might be illegal to smoke it outside, but I think that people do. I mean, I didn't see it, but I've heard that people do. But it's kind of like you have to be discreet about it. But it is it is legal here. So that's one thing that's good about Ecuador. Somebody asked, is it true that pork meat is better than beef meat? I mean, I don't know if I say it's better, but to me, pork is more widely consumed around the world. I was just looking at a list of the 20 healthiest countries in the world, right? And I know that the top 12, I didn't remember looking through it, but they all were pork eating countries. Every single one of them. I'm going to do a video about that. Every single one of them have all kinds of pork dishes that they eat. So I'm always telling people that it's a myth that pork is so bad for you. The longest living, healthiest people in the world eat pork, okay? The longest living, healthiest countries in the world eat pork. Just Google it. Google what countries have the longest living people, the longest life expectancies. Google it. And then look and see if they eat pork, and you'll see all kinds of pork. Pork is high in vitamin D and vitamin A, okay? Naturally. It's also high in fats that are really important for us. Now, of course, I'm not talking about pork from the commercial food industry. I'm always talking about getting the best quality foods you can get, right? Always. Because with anything, you can poison it and then say it's bad. Like if you're smoking weed that's full of like horrible chemicals and you say the weed is bad, when really it's the chemicals that's on it that's bad. If you have good quality weed, it's not bad. Same thing with food. So I'm not talking about pork from the commercial food industry. But you can get pork in the U.S. that's not from the commercial food industry, right? But I'm just saying it's the most widely consumed meat, all right? So I don't think there's anything at all wrong with pork. And if you actually, people who actually travel, and if you like see what people eat and eat what they eat, there's pork everywhere. I mean, watch Anthony, everywhere but a Muslim country, okay? Watch Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. Everywhere he went, people consume pork. So I got to go make it to this airport so I can fly out of here. I have to take a flight from Cuenca to Quito, then from Quito to Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale Airport and city also has horrible food. I do not like the food in South Florida at fucking all. It's the worst, okay? And then I'll be in New York tomorrow. I'll be in New York tomorrow morning. And all I want to do is eat as much good food as I can tomorrow. I need to cook my own food. I need some good butter, some cheese, some eggs, some bacon, some good food because my food be good. And I need to be nourished because I damn near have a headache right now because of just eating crap. So I don't know. Every time I do a video, there's something I feel like I meant to say that I didn't say, but I don't remember if there's anything else right now. So I'm just going to end this video so I don't miss my flight. And I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you for listening. And make sure you follow me on IG and YouTube. Okay.